Welcome to the way of biohacking. On today's episode, it's just going to be me and Nikki.
Hello, everybody.
And today's topic is intermittent fasting. Nikki, why don't you start us off? You know a lot about this topic.
Well, fasting is something that I contribute into my daily life. I intermittent fast every day. I stop eating at around 6 p.m.
Okay.
And my fasting window will be 6 p.m. until around 9:30 the next morning. It's not a long fast, but just stopping, restricting, having a window of eating, I think is good. And it's something that greatly improved my sleep. And I'll do longer fasts sometimes. Like sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I'm going to go on a 24-hour fast. And I'll just do a 24-hour fast, especially when I'll have maybe little gut issues. Fasting, it kind of resets the microbiome. It kills some bad bacteria that you might have. It'll kill that off because it has a shorter half-life than good bacteria. And also when I'll have like a physical injury, like I had neck surgery.
Yeah.
I have a scar right here. The camera might be able to pick it up. But once I had that surgery, I did a 24-hour fast. And then I did a few days later another 24-hour fast. And I was back to working out in a week. Like when you're fasting and you need to heal from something, your body's not juggling, healing and digestion. Right. Because digestion is a really energy consuming process. Right. You're getting energy from it, but it's a stress on the body, digestion, and constantly digesting can't be good for us. So when you take a break from digesting, when you need to heal, your body just 100% focuses on healing or recovering from your cold or something like that. So when I feel a cold coming, I'll usually do a 24-hour fast also.
So how long have you been doing intermittent fasting, and how often do you do these 24-hour breaks?
Well, I've been doing it for a few months. I've been doing after I won't eat past 6 because my sleep wasn't great, and I wanted to get my sleep better, and I started doing that, and I saw a instant improvement in my sleep. And the 24 hours, I'll maybe do them once a month, depending on the circumstances. Like if I wake up with a little sore throat, maybe I'm getting a cold, I'll just do a 24-hour fast, and it'll usually greatly help how I feel.
How did you get introduced to intermittent fasting?
Well, I listened to a lot of Dave Asprey, Andrew Huberman, Ben Greenfield. I listen to all their podcasts, and they're big advocates of fasting. And one thing I also noticed was once you get over that initial hunger hump, you're kind of smooth sailing. You don't really get hungry after that first, I'm so hungry, oh my God. And then it goes away, and that's when your body starts to use its stored energy, which I'm already skinny. I don't have a lot of stored energy, but that's when it'll start to use that. And once you get over that, it's pretty easy to go a pretty long period of time without eating. And there's a big notion about, it's unhealthy, you got to always be eating. I think it's crazy that people think that we're always supposed to be digesting.
Right.
So like animals in the wild, they're not constantly eating. They'd be lucky if they ate one meal a day. If we were cavemen, we would be lucky if we ate one meal a day. It's very, I don't know where this whole 3 meals a day with snacks came from, but I think it's marketing. Definitely marketing. It has to be. The food industry is such a big, lucrative business. There's so much money to be made.
I think in the 1950s, a lot of these breakfast industries like cereal, they started targeting children, and a lot of people in Congress thought that was unethical. But the lobby groups, once you put in like 5, 6, 10, like close to $100 million a year, you can't help but to influence Congress, right?
Yeah. It's a lot about money, and one thing also is a lot of the older studies that are still followed today about fasting and about nutrition. All the anti-meat studies are a lot of them, if you look who they're funded by, a lot of them are funded by General Mills or Coca-Cola, and it makes you think who has to benefit from a study being against fasting?
Right.
Them, because you buy their products. They would lose a lot of money if a lot of people started to fast more.
I think one of the most interesting facts about the whole current pandemic situation. Like India has a population of 1.3 billion people, and their death toll, I think, as of this year was about 700,000, right? In the United States, we have about 328 million, right? But our death toll was about 400,000. Now, if we were just like India, if you do the math, it would be 4 times that amount, right? So, like, our death rate is like close to like 4 times higher than India. And I think it's a lot of this, like, you know, second morbidities, like comorbidities that have, and I think obesity has something huge with it.
Yeah, I think overnutrition is a big factor of most comorbidities, and metabolic health.
Yeah.
Also, you know, constantly spiking the insulin, like constant insulin spike, then crash, insulin spike, then crash. It destroys metabolic health. And that leads to inflammation. Constant spiking of insulin leads to general inflammation. Like all the itises, you know, laryngitis, tonsillitis. Itis means inflammation. And there's so many itises, like everyone's inflamed. And, you know, there has to be something that we're not doing right. And I think it's overnutrition.
I think the guy who wrote the Bible on intermittent fasting is a guy named Dr. Jason Fung from Canada. He's a nephrologist. And I think a lot of the source material that Ben Greenfield and Dave Asprey gets it from is from this guy. And I put a lot of my patients, when they're on a weight loss program, like the first thing I recommend is stop eating breakfast.
Yeah, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, stop eating breakfast. And some people are like set on, oh, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I'm like, only for growing children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I do like breakfast. I tried to do the skipping breakfast, and I didn't feel like my brain performed as well. So when I stopped eating at night, so I still eat breakfast, but if I was to coach somebody, which is what I could see myself doing in the future, like a nutritional coach or something along those lines, the first thing I would do is restrict a feeding window. And then I would slowly kind of make it smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And I know somebody, they went vegan, but they ate one vegan meal a day, and he lost like 150 pounds in like 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And, you know, he eventually got off veganism, but he was able to maintain his weight by eating around one meal a day. And I'm skinny, and I'm constantly trying to gain weight.
Yeah.
Like I work out a lot, I'm trying to put on muscle, and I still intermittent fast, and I'm not losing weight. Like a lot of people think, oh, you're fasting and you're going to lose weight, you're not nourishing yourself. I've been consistently gaining weight.
Okay.
Because that's what I'm trying to do. And even though I have a restricted feeding window, I'm still gaining weight because I'm eating how I'm supposed to, and I'm working out along with it. And even when I go on 24-hour fasts, I'll look in the mirror like with my shirt off, and I'll look super ripped after the fast. Like I'll look better than I did before. So fasting also increases your human growth hormone production. So breaking a fast with a workout is something that's really good. Also really interesting stuff.
So I first got introduced to intermittent fasting through Tom Jasinski, the neuroarchitect. When he first came to his office, he's like, I eat one meal a day. I'm like, I heard stories about people like you.
Crazies.
And it was so mind-boggling, right? And I think he ate at the time like in a 4-hour window. And at that time, I was doing what they call the Biofuel Diet. It's based off of Dr. Robert Marshall's work. And basically what he says is keep your sugar and fat intake non-existent, which kind of makes you eat like blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, that are low glycemic foods with no fat. A lot of people think that drinking regular coffee is like, with milk and sugar. Some people think that milk is not sugar, but if you look at, sugar.
Yeah, super high in lactose. Lactose is a sugar.
Lactose is a sugar. Anything that ends with OSC, right? OS is a sugar. So usually people take black coffee in the morning, some sort of tea, eat berries when they must eat something. But the goal is to make them stop eating anything other than liquids that doesn't really break your fast.
And one thing that also greatly improved my cognitive function immediately was when I first went keto, and I was like sloppy keto. Like I still ate all the seed oils and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I got rid of the omega-6 seed oils, like, oh my gosh, like immediately my energy, my cognitive function was just significantly better. And these things are like known carcinogens. Like there's studies where they inject. I saw a study recently. It was done in the 80s. It's an old study, but I'll just like research an ingredient. So it happened to be stearic acid, which is in beef tallow, grass-fed tallow.
Yeah.
And they took a bunch of rats and they injected some with a high omega-6 fat and other rats with a high stearic acid beef tallow. Mm-hmm. All the rats had cancer, and all the rats that were injected with the omega-6 died of cancer, and 11 out of 13 of the rats that were injected with stearic acid found in beef grass-fed tallow were cancer-free by week 22.
Where was this study done?
I was on Google Scholar, and I looked up stearic acid, and it was one of the first. Okay. It was one of the first studies.
There is a documentary that most Americans have not watched because it's a Korean documentary about corn, right? In Korean, it's called 옥수수의 습격, the attack of the corns, right? And they showed laboratory mice with cancer, right? And group A, these mice would eat omega-6s, and group B, they would eat omega-3s. And the group A, when they're eating omega-6s, the cancer would grow, these masses would grow, but the group with the omega-3s, their masses would grow smaller, and actually, some of them would actually resolve.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one thing, we kind of talked about the problems with, General Mills and all the funding. Another thing is, new nutritionists and dietitians are being taught that these seed oils are healthy.
Yeah.
Like, I was in school and I was being taught that. I was like, that's not true. And I was on TikTok the other day, and it was like day in the life of eating with the nutritionist. So I was like, oh, interesting. And the first meal was breakfast, and she grabbed her can of Pam canola oil spray and sprayed her pan. And I was,
God.
I face palmed. I was like, what? Like, it's not their fault, because that's what they're told is good. They're told that, butter and stuff is bad, and seed oils are good. But I was like, oh my God, it's so bad. Like, it's horrible.
I mean, like my day, so when Tom first introduced me to intermittent fasting, I gotta say, I was eating bad at the time, right? I was close to 195. Oh yeah, by the way, this morning I checked my weight. I'm at 167. This is the lowest weight I've been since college. I never broke the 170 barrier, but I think I finally got there. And in the past week, I've been really good just about eating like fruits and vegetables to break my fast for past 2 o'clock. So up until 2 o'clock, from the minute I wake up, all day I drink water, maybe a cup of coffee, some tea, mushroom tea, rose petal tea. And around 2 o'clock, I start eating my banana, my orange, my tangerine, my celery sticks, my bell peppers. And at the end, like closer to like 3 o'clock, especially this week, I've been eating a can of sardines, like packed with omega-3s.
Super high omega-3.
Yeah, and I
can't do that. I've tried it. I bought them.
Yeah.
I tried it. I couldn't get them down. I tried though.
There was a study done on sardines coming out of a can versus tuna and salmon. Sardines is one of those sustainable fishes that is not contaminated with heavy metals.
Way lower in mercury too than tuna and salmon.
And the omega-3 content is like so much higher than I put lemon, right? Salt. I think pepper would actually enhance the flavors too, but
I did it when I tried them. I did olive oil and lemon, but I couldn't do it. And what's interesting about sardines is so they're really high in alpha linoleic acid, which is omega-3.
Yeah.
And they're really low in linoleic acid. When you see omega-3s in plants, like nuts and stuff, they have a lot of omega-3s, like pecans and walnuts, but they also have omega-6s.
Right.
Sardines, they're super high on omega-3 and super low on omega-6s.
I think for most Americans out there who's on the standard American diet, you need a lot of omega-3s, right?
I believe I saw a study where you're supposed to have around 6 to 1 omega-6 to 3. You're supposed to have more 6 to 1. And right now the average American is around 25 to 1 with omega-6. Yeah, I saw that recently.
Who is that? In ancient cultures, the Mayans, the Aztecs, right? Especially the Mayans, because they're named after the corn, right? Because maíz means corn in Spanish, right? So the Mayan civilization, they ate a lot of corn, but according to like archaeological studies, it showed that they ate chia seeds with it to balance out their omega-3s and 6. I mean, they didn't know what omega-3s and omega-6s were, but they know what food that went along with it.
Right. You can kind of just tell how you feel.
Right.
Like when I used to eat higher omega-6s, I would just feel like, like my head, I wouldn't feel very good. And I could tell now, like say I go out to eat and there's some type of oil on some chicken or something that I eat, I could tell almost immediately that whether it was like grass-fed butter or if it was something that's high in omega-6, I could tell almost instantly. It'll kind of give me a fog, and I'll just be like, ugh.
I mean, like intermittent fasting, I break my fast around 2, eating all these vegetables, a can of sardines, and I would go home around like 9 o'clock, eat. So I guess I'm eating in close to a 7-hour window, right? So in a 24-hour period, I'm eating what? 24 minus 7, 17. So for 17 hours, I'm not really eating anything other than water and tea, right? I'm not putting in what breaks the fast is what sugar, right?
And then with calories
and fats, right?
And another thing that people should, if I was to advise someone who wants to still eat most of their foods and enjoy a lot of things, I would say just kind of restrict the window a little bit, cut out the oil, the refined oils, keep the good butter and like good oils like beef tallow and butter and olive oil, and get rid of refined sugar.
Yeah.
It'll really crash your energy. I keep my I don't eat carbs in the morning. I'll eat them after lunch or after a workout, and I don't eat a lot. But when I avoid carbs in the morning, I don't get that insulin crash at around lunchtime where you're like, oh, I'm tired. It's shown that carbs are definitely better energy sources in the evening or after 12, because the crash is kind of around where you want to go to bed. So it works out better.
For me, like when I'm doing the intermittent fasting, my sense of mental clarity is a lot better. And 2, it kind of like forces you to eat like healthier because like you feel the food more.
Right.
So like when I have a pizza, like a slice of pizza, so convenient for me because it's right across the street, and if I eat it, then I could feel my like energy bogging down, right? But if I eat fruits and vegetables, like my energy is like sustainable, if not slightly more enhanced, right?
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of the keto people be anti-fruit. I'm not anti-fruit. I think fruit is pretty good. I think we're kind of meant to eat. The plant wants us to eat its fruit. Right? Because the fruit is the plant's ovary, and inside the fruit is its seeds. So it wants us to eat the fruit, eat the seed, and then pass the seed so that we help the plant reproduce.
Right.
So the plants make the fruits edible. They make it taste good. They make it sweet, and they make it good. Like leaves are a little different because the plant doesn't want us to eat its leaves. You know?
Right.
So, but it wants us to eat its fruit. And it's interesting, like, I do like berries the most. I think berries are the lowest sugar, the lowest glycemic index.
Yeah.
So I think berries are the most optimal. But I also, like, right now I'm eating an apple. Like, over the course of a few days, I don't eat one apple in one sitting. But that's because apples grow in New York.
Yeah.
Apples are in season in the fall. So I'll have an apple. In the summer, blueberries are in season. Blueberries grow here, so I'll have blueberries. I always eat whatever. Like right now, I don't think blueberries are growing.
Right.
So I wouldn't eat blueberries.
Okay.
I only eat what's growing
in season.
Yeah.
Like one of the blue zones where people live over 100 years old and stuff like that. All these centurions that exist in these like Okinawa, Sardinia, these locations. like one thing they have all in common is that they eat legumes, right? Like the human small intestine.
And I bet they don't eat 3 meals a day.
No, they don't.
Yeah, no way.
They don't. A lot of people eat something very simple, very tiny amounts. They don't eat till they're full. They eat to be satiated, right? Just like, when I break my fast around 2 o'clock, I'm nibbling on like celery sticks, bell peppers, oranges. The only thing that spikes up my sugar is like the orange and the banana. Like for most people, when they eat a bagel and before that they eat a banana for breakfast, right? They are slowly spiking up the sugar. They really spike it up, right?
But and also white like flour has a way bigger impact on insulin than fruits. I mean, fruits do have an impact, but flour, even though it's not sweet, it really spikes your blood sugar through the roof.
Like in Eastern medical theory, there are, like, we say that the qi, the qi of the herbs or whatever you consume is based on the flavors, right? Like sweets. It tends to be sticky. So whenever you eat sticky stuff, it sticks on you. And that's how people gain weight. And what they consider, the word sugar crash is like a modern phenomenon. The ancient understanding of something that is sugary is that if you ate a lot of sugary stuff in a very short amount of time, your body would get sticky and slow down. And that was the ancient understanding of sugar crash.
And what's also interesting about that is it'll also show up on your skin when you eat a lot of sugar. So like a banana, when a banana gets older, it gets the brown spots, and those are usually the sweeter spots, right? When you open a banana, you have like the brown spot, it's sweeter. It's called chelation. It's kind of the same process that goes on in our bodies. When you see people with like, it looks like there's kind of crystals on their arm, like it's like birthmark crystals. Yeah. It's because they eat a lot of sugar. Their skin chelates in the same way that a banana will chelate when it gets older and softer. It also has to do with a large consumption of seed oils. They chelate in the skin.
Okay, I'm gonna try to pull this thing up. Just give me a second. Let me see if I can blow this up.
Is that brain activity with sugar?
Yeah. Hold on. This is a YouTube. Let me see if I could get... Can I pull this up full screen somehow?
Well, I have the thing up.
Okay, there we go.
That looks good.
There we go. So, this is your brain that is normal. This is your brain on cocaine. And this is your brain on sugar. Right? And
it's crazy. It almost has the exact same coloration and effect.
Like from a chemistry perspective, is that when you eat like a sugar cane, right? To process that sugar, it takes a long period of time. But when you extract that and refine it, right, it's pure sugar, right? There's no more fibers in there.
Same thing with high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah,
it's so processed. It's like if you were to eat 500 years of corn in like one bottle of corn syrup. It makes evolutionarily we wouldn't be eating that.
Yeah, so from a neurological standpoint, you're creating all these like receptors, right, in a very short amount of time, and then all of a sudden, like you do that for 5 days straight, and your 6th day, you don't get your sugar kick. Those receptors are creating cravings and stuff like that.
And also, fasting is a good way to remove a lot of cravings. When I started intermittent fasting, a lot of cravings went away. I haven't really had cravings in a while, because once you kind of get over the hump of cravings, they kind of don't come back.
Yeah.
But fasting it helped my cravings a lot when I started it.
I think intermittent fasting from a mental and I'm going to say spiritual perspective, it has given me more control over food than food has control over me. Right? Because I'm telling myself, you know what, I'm not going to eat anything in this time of frame of window. And that's giving me like tremendous control that I really enjoy about intermittent fasting.
And I remember when I was little, say like I didn't want to eat dinner or whatever, and you got to eat. It's not good for you if you don't eat, And at the time I was a growing child. Yeah, that's probably true. I should probably eat more to grow.
Yeah.
But as an adult, like, you realize you don't need to eat all the time. Like, once you stop and you start to fast, like, I don't need to eat dinner. If I say I was here till midnight and I went home and go to bed, I didn't need to eat dinner. Like, I would be okay. It's okay. And it kind of makes things a little easier if you say work a full-time job and you're really stressed about, all right, I got to make myself lunch, I got to prepare this, I got to meal prep. What if you just didn't eat lunch that day?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You don't have to worry about eating, you know?
I usually recommend people to, stop eating breakfast. Take about 2 weeks of doing that, because it takes 2 weeks for your body to really adjust. Then you push your lunch to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and when you do break fast, eat things that are like whole, like fruits, legumes. Like, you could always get a bean salad somewhere, or like a bean soup in your local pizzeria, things like that, like lentil soup, right? And I always say, like, be careful, because if you're not used to eating beans, you're gonna get gas, bloating, running to the bathroom. So you got to introduce that very, very slowly.
Especially after a fast on an empty stomach.
Yeah, you got to introduce that very, very slowly. But if you do it for like 3-4 days in a row, your body gets used to it, and you produce the correct enzymes to digest those things. And
that's the whole enzyme production is interesting also, because when you fast, you're giving all of your enzymes a break, and enzymes are sensitive. They're heat sensitive. They're really sensitive. They break down really easily. So when you give them just kind of a rest, most people are constantly eating, like constantly snacking. I used to be one of those people. I would snack between meals. I would eat meals, and I would eat when I wasn't hungry. Now I really kind of only eat when I'm hungry, and my digestion is much better.
I want to pull up this.
For those just listening, we are pulling up some photos on Tay's computer. If you don't want to be listening and you would like to watch the show, youtube.com/KI Body and Spirit. That's where you can find us on YouTube, and you can watch.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I could get this.
That looks fine.
That looks fine? Okay. Now there is, there's always polarized views of it, right? And I stand on the side of not recommending people to eat MSG, right? Monosodium glutamate. And I see, what's sad is, like, I see all these Asian people on YouTube bringing out like research scientists and say, like, MSG is okay, right? And MSG was used to attack Asian culture and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, these poor bastards.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that came out about MSG was because people thought it used to give them headaches.
Yeah.
But it's just very addictive.
Yeah.
Like, it's not good to... I wouldn't want to be addicted to anything. I don't drink caffeine or... So that's why I avoid MSG. I don't really want to get addicted to it. It's just a kind of a bad habit to have, eating all that, like, the sugary, like, the stuff that's MSG is in is typically sugary, like the sesame chicken, like things like that.
So one of the things that, like, when they try to test medication on, like, Lipitor or high blood pressure, things that relates to blood pressure, and which is pretty much obesity, right? Now, when they test a drug, they need to test it on animals, like mice, first, right? Before they eventually give it, human trials, right? To see it actually, works on its way to do that. So, in nature, they don't have obese rats in nature. It just simply doesn't happen.
There's not really obese anything in nature.
Yeah.
There's just obese people.
Yeah. So one of the things that they do is they have to create these obese rats. And how do they do that? They inject them with MSG, right? And when they inject them with MSG, they start gaining weight really, really fast. Now, I don't know if these Asian people who are defending MSG because, it's an attack on Asian culture and all that stuff.
I mean, it tastes good.
I mean, I think it definitely tastes good. It
lights up
the
your
flavors.
brain like crazy.
Yeah,
I know that.
But like the kids who are eating like potato chips, like Doritos and stuff like that, they're packed with MSG, right? Mm-hmm. So they're playing their, video games at home, and they're eating away the chips, like that classic character from who is that?
South Park.
Yeah,
I know exactly what episode.
He's eating chips, playing video games, and he's getting really large. And if you look at one of the photos on MSG-induced rats, like the organs, they don't look healthy, right? On the far left corner over here.
You can see how swollen they look. Like they look swollen.
Yeah.
Wow.
See how like the organs, they have a lot of color over here, and over here is like bleached out.
They're shriveled up. They're a lot smaller.
Yep. And this is what MSG does, and this is what people are saying. Oh yeah, it's still healthy for you. It in small amounts is actually okay, and it actually enhances flavor. I think these things can kind of like get lost in translation. I mean, if it does this to rats, right? Why would you want to eat these things?
Yeah, I think that it's just a powder. I think you can ask any place, to not add an MSG. I don't think it's like in the actual food. I could be like incorporated in it. I think they sprinkle it on it when they're cooking it. I think if you ask them not to, I think that wouldn't be a problem. But I think it's something I avoid. It's something that I think most people should avoid. There's nothing to gain from it.
Like the MSG has that umami flavor that a lot of chefs like that they can't create. And I say that's BS. If you're a chef and you went to culinary school, there are other ways to go about doing that. One of them is seaweed and anchovies. Like you boil these things, right?
Anchovies. I'm Italian. Anchovies are good when they're in a sauce or anything like that. I can't eat them straight, but they have a good flavor.
So Asian people, they like Korean. If you go to the Korean supermarket, they have a section where they have all these dried anchovies. They take out the poop, right? They throw it out, and then they throw these like dried up anchovies with a little bit of seaweed that's been dried up, right? And they put it in this packet, and then you start boiling the water with this thing, right? And this is your stock base. And then you start making all the soup. I mean, you could do that with like, if you make a concentrated form, and you could throw that like stock base into your cooking, it would enhance the flavors as well. So I'm like totally anti-MSG because you just saw the pictures, right?
Yeah. It's kind of crazy what it did to the organs. For those who are just listening, the organs were much smaller and pale. The organs on the left were of a healthy rat. The organs on the right were of an MSG injected rat. The organs were pale and small, and it didn't look like a...
Like the intestines didn't have those intestine-y colors and stuff like that.
No, they weren't pink and like vibrant.
Yeah. I think what intermittent fasting can do for a lot of people is like know their addictions. And for a lot of people, there are addictions to like carbs. There's like herbivores, there's like carnivores, and then there are carnivores, right?
And one thing that causes a addiction to carbs is bad gut bacteria.
Yeah,
it causes that craving. So one week I did a 24-hour fast every other day because I wanted to reset my gut. I've have a history of gut issues, so I wanted to completely like reset my microbiome. So I did a 24-hour fast every other day for a week, and after that week, like I felt so much better. I had like no cravings at all, zero, like no cravings for anything. And it's because I killed off a lot of the bad bacteria in my gut because of that half-life. Good gut bacteria will last a lot longer than bad when they're starved. So.
The bad bacteria are oftentimes very large, right? And the good bacteria is very, very small, right? So some people eat like that diatomaceous earth, which like if you eat it, right, and as it goes through your gut,
like fiber scrapes the lining.
It makes the bad bacteria kind of like die, creates a harsh environment for them to survive, and like the good bacteria doesn't really get affected by it.
Right, and it's interesting because I bet our ancestors, our caveman ancestors that didn't eat all this processed food, they probably didn't really have many gut issues.
Right.
Probably didn't have any gut issues, and they definitely did not eat 3 meals a day.
Like one of my pet peeves of the current microbiome industry, everybody's trying to sell a pill, everyone's trying to make a buck and stuff like that.
Yeah, probiotics I think are like a multi-billion-dollar industry. They're huge,
and it shouldn't be, because I think that when you take probiotics, the entire advertising is about, oh, it's got this many billions of this type of bacteria and all that stuff, and then you eat it, right? And then it goes into your esophagus, goes into your stomach, then all the acids, they kill it, right?
A lot of probiotics get killed in your stomach acid. So I mean, I know some of them have like some resilient capsule, it's supposed to be special or whatever. As the one that I just take a probiotic because I spent a lot of money on it, so I'm gonna finish the bottle. But I don't think it has that capsule, the special capsule. A lot of the cheap ones that you'll find at CVS, they go into your stomach, the capsule dissolves, and all the probiotics die.
And it goes into your small intestine, which is like 18 feet of like sterile environment.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know this. The small intestine is completely sterile. There's something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I thought I had it for a while, but that's when bacteria will leak from your large intestine into your small intestine and it'll start to grow. And that is linked with excess sugar consumption. But you're not supposed to have any bacteria in your small intestine. It's supposed to be completely sterile. So for a probiotic to reach your large intestine, it has to go on a pretty long journey.
The Japanese doctor, Dr. Ohira, like he's the guy who came up with the time release capsule that would be released into
That's what it's called, the time release.
Time release capsule and he got like multiple awards, right? And like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm taking my probiotic, and I'm like, let me not correct this person and get on their bad side today.
That's a struggle with me too. Like I'll at work or whatever, when I work over the summer, I'll see people like eating their lunch, like they'll eat what they'll think is like totally healthy, you know. And I'm like, I'm not gonna bother them. Be like, that's not too good for you. You know? Like,
you want to be asked.
I'm not gonna help anybody, but if they ask me for help, I'll gladly ruin their lunch.
I think a great source of eating probiotic food, like what is that drink that everybody, the kombucha?
Kimchi? Oh yeah, kombucha.
Kombucha, the drink, is really good for you, but it's not going to like restore your intestinal floras and stuff like that.
That probably won't get past your stomach either.
And what I usually recommend is eating like probiotic food, like fermented foods.
I eat sauerkraut every day. I eat sauerkraut about a tablespoon around lunchtime.
Do you make it or do you purchase it?
No, I bought one jar and I did really well on it, and then I ran out, and then I got a different brand.
Or
there was a different brand in my house, and I didn't like the way it didn't give me the benefits of the other one, like, because probiotic, there's millions of strains of bacteria, and they're all different, and whatever grew in the sauerkraut didn't agree with me as well, so I kind of stopped taking it. But they work for different people. That jar might not have worked for me, but it might work for somebody else.
I always tell people when they buy like sauerkraut and stuff like that at the supermarket to make sure that it's non-pasteurized, because the pasteurization process kills a lot of the bacteria, which defeats the purpose, right? You're just eating it for flavor.
And it doesn't taste very good.
No. I was purchasing, I think, Bubba's thing, but their stuff is like pasteurized. I don't know if they do have a
really?
Pasteurized version, right? And I end up usually making up mine, right? And a lot of the YouTube content on sauerkraut is always salt, and if it comes out way too salty and stuff like that, I try some of their recipes, didn't come out, so I go back to my original Korean recipes. It's like a Korean German hybrid of on the future episodes I'll be sure to make one and like show everybody how I do it.
We'll talk about sauerkraut.
All right, back to intermittent fasting. All right. Don't eat breakfast. Eating in the smaller time frame window, right? It increases human growth hormones, right?
It does.
You also want to teach your body to like know when it wants sugar and fats, and you need a good combination of both.
And a lot of times when you're craving sugar, if you just had something salty, that craving will go away. Like a lot of times where you crave sugar, it's because you're salt deficient. And that's I want to mention something. If you're going to start fasting, you might get a lot of headaches at first, and that's because you're going to be salt deficient. So it's happened to me. This happened to someone I know who I was trying to help lose weight. They said, I have these headaches. I'm fasting, but I have these headaches. I was like, all right, go eat something salty. Go have a little bit of salt, put it on your tongue. It almost gets rid of it immediately. But your body's so used to constantly eating food that you put salt on. Yeah. When you lower your salt intake from that fast, you'll kind of feel not great. So just having a little bit of salt, if you kind of get that fast fatigue, I guess we can call it, it'll definitely help that.
For people who are diabetic, right, who's always checking their blood sugar levels, right? I had this happen to me like several times. So now I do this as part of the protocol when I give this like type of recommendation to people. When they're doing intermittent fasting is, if you're constantly checking your blood sugar levels, in the morning your blood sugar levels will be even more elevated, just FYI, and that's considered to be okay if you're a diabetic person, right? Because fasting will do that to you.
Coming off a fast, you'll be more insulin sensitive.
Yeah. And let's see. Have you ever done a 72-hour fast?
I've never gotten that long.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I probably will eventually one day, but not yet.
Yeah, I want to pull up the Harvard study. I don't think this is the Harvard study article. This was like several years back, right? The Harvard study showed that if you did intermittent fasting when you do a 72-hour fast, it resets your immune system, right? So people who have like compromised immune system and stuff like that, depriving your body of like oils and sugars for a long time, one, your body will eat up all the sugar that it has internally, right? So it's like giving you a clean break. Two, you're going through a process what they call autophagy, right? Self-eating.
Cellular, when cells die and create new ones.
Yeah. And your immune system will put biomarkers on like irregular cells. So let's say you have like 10 blood cells in your whole body, let's say, right? And 2 of them have errors on it, right? What autophagy will do when you go for a fast this long is that your immune system will identify the 2 cells, 20% of your cells in your body, to say, hey, these are errors, and these should not be replicating over and over because they eventually become cancerous and stuff like that. So your immune system will go and destroy these things and recycle the parts to make the new ones correctly. And I believe, like, at least when I was studying it, there was a lady named Dr. Ana Maria Cuervo from the Albert Einstein School of Medicine, and she observed her lab rats to be living a lot longer because they were doing like they were in a state of autophagy longer. So like I don't know what the life expectancy of the rats are, but they were living well beyond that. Yeah.
And that what you said about the blood cells is a really good example of when you give your body a break from eating, digesting. Because constant digestion, your body doesn't get a chance to kind of scan yourself and see, all right, what's going on, what's wrong. But when it's not doing anything, you get a chance to kind of find little errors that might be, that might lead to bigger problems in the past if you don't get a chance to fix them.
Yeah. All right. Have we covered everything in intermittent fasting?
I think we did a pretty good job.
Okay. All right. For those who are listening in, make sure that you are consulting a healthcare provider before committing to something like this. I don't think this episode is enough, right? Please do plenty of research and consult with your healthcare, medical doctor, somebody who knows about intermittent fasting, and have them guide for you, because there's different people out there at different situation, and like the ketogenic diet, right? It should not be meant for everybody. It's ideal for like people with like what is that?
Epilepsy
and seizures and stuff like that, right? So this is just for information only. So we look forward to the next podcast, and we're recording next week, right? Thanksgiving Thursday?
Yes, I think so.
Friday,
we'll have one. And you could find us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube at youtube.com/KI Body and Spirit. We'll see you in the next episode.
All right. Take care, everybody.